I had a very rare disease. It's called dermal sinus. And what happened is when I was a baby, 6 months old, my legs became paralyzed. They wouldn't move. I was not supposed to walk. The doctors had told my parents that I would always be in a wheelchair and that it would probably be better if they put me in a home in Aurelia. Then they wouldn't have to deal with taking care of me. When I was about 3, I stood up in my crib. I began walking and only wore braces until I was in grade 1. Got rid of those, but kept seeing the inside of a lot of hospitals. That always has been a financial burden. I remember one of the really big events in my growing up was to go to a Beatle concert at Maple Leaf Gardens, being a Beatle fan. And I had asked my parents, I said, I really do want to go. Madly in love with all 4 of them, etc., etc. And they warned me that there would be lots of crowds and probably people would be screaming and these kinds of things. And I said, yes, I know, but I want to go. They said, fine. And I went. And there were screaming people all over the place, falling off chairs. I couldn't see, but with the help of my friend, I stood up on a chair because I wasn't going to miss the Beatles. And I enjoyed myself immensely, and nothing happened. And to me, that's an indication of the freedom I have been given by my parents to make a choice. So when you ask the question of being an idol, say, to other people and doing more than normal, it's been natural. It's been a natural process for me. And I think I have surrounded myself with people who appreciate that and who can share that part of me. My brother and I have a very, very close relationship. I'm sure it's been very difficult for him sometimes because being a female and spending a lot of time in the hospital, I got a lot more attention from those outside my immediate family. So my parents have been very realistic about that too and have always tried to balance it and have always made both of us feel important. I admire both my mother and my father because I'm sure it would have been much more difficult to watch than having to actually go through the process. I came out of the hospital on September 1st after being in for 3 months and major surgery and wanted to go to university, which started on September the 8th. And we went to the doctors, and the doctors said, well, it will be difficult, but there's no reason why you shouldn't go. And my parents were concerned. My mother indicated that she wouldn't be too happy if I went because she would be worried. At this point, I had just been out of bed, and I couldn't walk very far and needed to use a wheelchair for long distances and canes. But they left the choice up to me. And when I made the choice that I wanted to go to university, they supported me.
Okay. Cool.
I'm very nervous in public pools because of my poor balance, so I try and find a private pool that we can use.
Cool.
Exercise is good for handicapped people. My father especially has pushed me to exercise and has always been there to help. Handicapped people aren't given the opportunities. And one phrase which I like is the opportunity of risk. They aren't allowed to try. If they fail, then that's going to be too difficult for them to handle. It's not only their physical disability we're dealing with, but people also put on an emotional disability and a mental disability. So if you're dealing with all those 3 things, and you're living in a protected environment, then you're not going to develop the skills. So that if you do have the opportunity to go out, you don't respond as a normal human being does, and the whole circle starts all over again, because if you don't respond to me as I expect, then I assume that you've got something wrong upstairs.
Here we go. That's it. Kick hard. From the side. Take a breath once in a while.
Now let's try to kick in, okay?
Okay. Ready? Here we go. Oops. Kick hard. That's it.
Oh, Bunny Rabbit, look out, calls Penny Pig. Don't get caught by that train. Step on the gas, Bunny Rabbit. Where's Goldbug? Is he in this one? Yeah. Children in the neighborhood were very helpful towards me. I guess they had become used to me. I was allowed to go out and play. My parents were not overly protective, which was great. And I did have that socialization.
Wherever you are. This tow truck's closer than this one. This tow truck's closer than this one.
Yeah. Wow. The baggage compartment on the bus has come open.
There's the top of it.
Someone's things are flying out. Duck, Pa! Duck, Pa! Oh dear, Ma didn't duck soon enough. Look what happened. I see. It's children that aren't used to seeing a handicapped adult that react negatively, what I call negatively, and which creates an uncomfortable situation. For example, if you're walking in a store, if I'm walking in a store, another handicapped adult is walking in a store, people will often stare. Children tend to be very verbal, and a child will often say, "Mommy, what's wrong with her?" The reaction of the parent is embarrassment, and what the parent will try and do is say, "Shh, shh, shh, you're not supposed to talk about that," type thing, and drag the child away. But of course what happens is the child becomes more insistent, and if the child can't have what he or she wants, then he starts making those demands more loudly. And so often a child will raise his or her voice and say, "But Mommy, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her?" And of course this travels around and people generally feel very uncomfortable with it.
Okay, shall we go to tea? Okay, will you take my hand?
I have found when children have said to me, "Why do you walk like that?" that I explained that when I was a baby I was sick and that hurt my muscles and that's why I walk like that. And they can accept that. They have an honest answer, they can understand it, and they're ready to deal with it. In fact, I've had some really nice situations where I've explained to a child what has been wrong, and they've said fine, but that child may come back a little later and say, "Can I help you?" if they see that I'm having difficulties. So I feel that if a child is dealt with honestly, the parent does not try and hide the fact. It's beneficial for everyone. I feel anger towards the parents more than I do the child because it's natural for a child to be inquisitive about something that is unfamiliar. You know what? You have got a mustache. Look at your face. You have got a good chocolate mustache. One of the problems is that there aren't very many handicapped people that are visible. I mean, if you think, if you're downtown, how many people in wheelchairs or how many people with canes and crutches do you see walking around? There aren't that many. Why not? One of the basic reasons, or two of the reasons, are because of transportation and accessibility. If a person is in a wheelchair and can't get out of that wheelchair on their own, or it's very awkward to move them, then they can't readily get into a car. So there's no way for them to get from point A to point B unless they have a transportation system. And that is a specially equipped van with a ramp on it, so that person does not have to be transferred. The other problem is accessibility. If a person wants to go downtown and go to a specific place, chances are there's going to be stairs. So how does a wheelchair person get up that flight of stairs? I'm going to send out a cover letter to all the people who attended the pre-housing conference. So I've just recently moved to a new position, which involves a lot of office work, which means sitting at a desk. And the unfortunate thing that happened is, again, the protection comes in where people say this will be much better for you because it's less running around. But the other thing is I don't get as much exercise. So when I'm sitting at that desk all day, my feet are down, the circulation is stopped, and I have problems. an infection can set in just like that. So, of course, what I've had to do is rearrange my other life so that I go for a walk every day. I ride my bicycle, and if I'm sitting at my desk doing reading, I pull up a chair and I put my feet up. It's not very professional, but it's preventative.
I've been on holidays for a while. Yes, so I apologize for the delay in returning your call.
People don't want to overstrain a physically handicapped person, and yet for most of them, the more exercise they get within their limitations, the better off they feel. That's true with anyone. To become a successful adult sometimes is very difficult when you have a physical disability. Unfortunately, you have to prove yourself. I think a lot of times you have to prove yourself to yourself to start with, and then you have to prove yourself to society. Show people that you can do a job. Show people that you are just as valuable as anyone else. And show people that you can work just as hard and accomplish just as much. Sometimes it may take a bit longer. But on the whole, it's still a proving thing. And then after people begin to value you, then you start to value yourself.
How would you cook a meal from a wheelchair?
You make sure that you're well organized beforehand, that you get your family to bring you the things that you can't reach in certain cupboards, and that because if the family's gone and the potatoes are in the bottom cupboard, you just don't have potatoes for supper. But you just have to be well organized and do things in small stages. And generally, you can get a simple meal together pretty well.
Do you use any special foods at all, like these quick, easy prepared foods?
I just wish I knew about more of them. There must be a lot in the market.
You mean you have no idea what's in the stores at all?
No, it's too awkward to go shopping. You need an extra person. Someone's pushing the wheelchair, someone needs to be pushing the grocery cart, and the stores are so crowded. And you get there and you can only see the ones at your eye level. But I do wish there was a way that someone would sample these products for us and tell us which are the good ones to try. There must be a lot on the market.
Our husbands just have to make up for us partly. They have to become good shoppers, whether they whether they like it or not. It's just something that they adapt to and find they have to do, is, do our grocery shopping for us, and we kind of rely on them for some things. And, of course, your children are helped generally, too.
How does a child adapt to being in a wheelchair? Like, I'm surprised that you even have children.
Well, I found the children adapted from very small, very, very well. They knew enough to come to me when I couldn't reach out to them, and, I looked after them from the time they were little. But they had to learn to do a great many things for themselves. And, tie their shoes much sooner than most children, and put on their own snowsuits no matter how long it took. And I don't know, it just seems children are more adaptable, I think, than even adults. When a challenge comes and your baby's born, you just don't think. You find yourself just automatically adapting and doing all the things that you need to do to take care of the wee one. It's surprising.
In my work as a community development officer, we try and work with the handicapped adult instead of doing things for them. Patronization is a very, very ugly word. That and crippled. Crippled is a very ugly word, too. It connotes the image of ugliness, of distortion. And when I hear the word crippled, no matter how good I'm feeling, it makes me feel rotten. So disabled and handicapped are words that one can deal with. But in our work, we try and work with the handicapped adult, find out what kinds of things they like to do, provide the resources for them to do those things so that hopefully their confidence can grow and they can move out into the world in an integrated process. My car really is my independence. I have trouble with public transportation. My balance isn't good enough to stand on buses. The crowding, the pushing, and the shoving is very, very difficult for a handicapped person to deal with. And with my car, I can go just about anywhere. It's expensive to park, but it's worth every penny. I'm reasonably mobile. I have trouble with stairs without handrails. I have trouble on ice and snow, and I have trouble with wind. I'm comfortable enough, though, that I can ask for help. I've stood outside many buildings and have waited for someone to come along and say, "May I have your arm, please?" And people have been very helpful and cooperative. But that's difficult for a lot of people. I mean, you consider yourself, if you had to ask for assistance for everything you did, and although I don't need that much assistance, consider someone else who would, you would start thinking that you were a bother and that you don't want to inconvenience others. It's very difficult for a handicapped person to gain independence on their own. Well, when you're younger, in many ways, you're very alone. For example, I spend a lot of time in the hospital. And so your own inner strength grows so that you consider yourself to be very independent and not needing anybody else. But as one grows older, there are different feelings to deal with. There are different patterns in life that one has to decide. And it's difficult to make those decisions on your own. And friends are really needed for that process. One of the exciting things for me in growing up and discovering very close friendships was a lot of the problems which I felt I had, a lot of my friends had. And my reaction was, "Oh, well, I'm really not all that different after all." But unfortunately, a lot of handicapped people don't have that social exposure. And because they don't have that social exposure, they remain isolated within their own little worlds. And those problems get blown out of perspective.
We can come back. You lose 2. 6 and 5, 5 and 4. Wipe out time, lady. No, you can roll 2. That's right. You can roll 2. Or 1, whichever you prefer.
Friends have been the people who have given me a good kick in the behind when I have tried to see my handicap before me. When I was at the university, there were several very important people who believed in my abilities. And at that point, I really didn't. I was still into the whole philosophy that, well, they're being nice to me, that they don't like me for me. And it took a couple of my friends to actually sit down and get very, very direct and say, "Look, I'm tired of this. You're very capable. I enjoy being with you for you, and if you're going to continuously distort our relationship, then that's going to be your loss because I'm going to go away." And I started thinking, and that's when I started changing and becoming a valuable person to myself.
Oh, it was just bargaining. I bartered. I was awful at it. But I bartered.
You say that you card.
No way, I don't want to pay. That's too much for this. Too much. No. And then one guy looked at me with the cane and he says, "Look at her. She doesn't have much money. Give it to her." So I figured, well, buddy, that's your problem. And I was upstairs in one store buying something, and I went to go downstairs. Immediately, 2 guys came, and 1 on each hand, helping me down the stairs, you know. It was just amazing.
But you're a white disabled woman. You know,
yeah.
You certainly
They didn't keep their hands off of me.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I had a fantastic time. It was good for my ego.
I enjoy dancing. A lot of dancing is just moving to the music. And I have a musical family as well, and that has been in me, and I like to have the freedom to go out and express myself in that way. It's difficult sometimes. The first time I got up and danced, I wasn't dancing. I was thinking about what are all those people thinking about me. But now I do it for myself, and in doing it for myself, I enjoy it, and the people I'm with don't feel uncomfortable. If I am rejected because of a disability, then I feel, well, it's not all me, that's part of him. And I don't have to take full responsibility for that. I think as a teenager growing up, one always envisions and dreams about the white wedding. And then as one matures, some of those dreams get knocked into reality. Yes, I'd like to get married. I have a lot of love to give and a lot of love to receive, and I would like that companionship. But I believe it's going to take a special person. A person who is going to appreciate me for what I am and who is going to be willing to assist. Because I do need more assistance than a non-physically disabled woman. As far as having children, that's going to be a decision that we, my husband and myself, will have to make. I would like to have children. Physically, it could be very difficult for me because my spine is curved. They don't know if I would have enough room to carry it, and they don't know if I would be able to carry a child because of my hips. I may have to spend the last 3 months of my pregnancy in bed. And then I would have to sit down and discuss that with my husband, because my husband is going to have to take on more responsibility for raising that child, as far as a lot of the physical things go. Part of sexuality for a handicapped person is learning how to accept those sexual feelings within him or herself. Because it's denied by society, one can very easily get into a pattern of, I am a neuter, I am a neuter. I remember the first time I experienced an attraction to a man, I had all these feelings inside, and I thought, my God, what's happening? I really don't know. And then it just took some time for me to get used to it and convince myself and say, look, lady, you're normal, so enjoy it.